Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first edition of this new program, Tough Talking Thursday. My name is Joel Nanton, and I'll be your host every Thursday right here, right now on Channel 4. So what are we about? Well, we intend to dig a little deeper into the business landscape, searching for facts and figures, sifting out truth from innuendo, finding out what else makes us tick in this oil and gas-driven economy. We'll be probing at guests seeking answers to questions we feel you, the viewers, would be interested in. But not only that, we'll be opening the lines for you to join us in the conversations that we'll be having. Let me tell you the numbers right away. You can call us at 675-8747 or 675-8749. We'll repeat the numbers as we go along. We are also streaming live on our Facebook page. Join us at www.facebook.com/OurTV4 and also at gisltd.tt/TV-4. So what are we about? As I said, we are looking at business in the broadest sense of the word, from big business right down to vending. We are not only talking numbers here, we are talking money matters that concern us all. We want to bring business from the cabinet and from the boardrooms into your living rooms. So yes, the oil price may have fallen by more than 50% in less than a year. Stock markets are moving up and down. But what does that mean for you and me? What does that mean for small and micro entrepreneurs? What does it mean for the housewife and the farmer? And talking about farmers, we kick off this program with a look at the agricultural industry, food production in particular. Where are we at now? Where should we be? And where are we going with this much talked about topic around the world, food security? Well, let's start at the top. Joining me in studio tonight is the Minister of Food Production, Senator the Honorable Devont Maraj, and with him the Chief Executive Officer at the National Agricultural Marketing and Development Company, NAMDEVCO, Mr. Ganesh Ganga Prasad. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us.
Well, food security. It's a much talked about topic, as I said. Some people describe it even as a national security issue, one writer said. And it's talked about the world over. So how would you define food security, Mr. Minister?
Well, I think that's the ability for us to feed ourselves. I think in the short, easy answer. Mm-hmm. If it's ever achievable, I don't think so. Because we are constrained by our size, our landmass, our capacity to produce only limited certain items and so on. And therein lies the challenge.
Mm-hmm. Let me go a hyperbole a bit here and exaggerate a little bit. It's a circumstance, a scenario that is not probable in the near future, but it's possible. Oil and gas reserves start to dwindle. Our markets shrink a little bit for oil and gas. Can we feed our people? Or can we turn to agriculture, the agricultural sector, to help feed our people?
I think we can make a significant impact in feeding ourselves, but it will require some changes which I think the population would have to accept willingly. And the major change would be a change in taste. If you look at our taste is primarily influenced by a North American palate. Mm-hmm. So when people go out to eat, they go to eat a number of these fast food restaurants and so on. When they go to the restaurants, what's on the plate is really more reflective of what obtains in Europe and North America in particular. Mm-hmm. You don't go to restaurants and you find dashin and cassava and edos and tanya and so on with tilapia and other locally grown items as part of the mainstay. That would be relegated to like breakfast shed and so on. Right. But in terms of the QSR, quick service restaurants and so on, it isn't there. But we have the capacity to make an impact in terms of feeding ourselves. But it requires internalization of what we have here, and our palate needs to change.
Yeah. And I mean, but exactly how do we go about, and maybe I could bring in Mr. Ganga Prasad after, but I would like you to answer first. Mr. Miraj, how do we go about changing the taste of our people
Well,
and showing them that this is going to add value to business and economy in
Well,
general?
well, you can't legislate for change, you know. You can't tell people they have to like that or they have to like this.
Exactly.
Just as much as you can't tell people tune in to Channel 4.
Precisely.
You provide something that's good and hope that you get people over a period of time. So this is all something for the long haul. So what we have been doing with the school feeding dietary board, along with NAMDEFCO and other agencies, is we have been trying slowly over a period of time to increase the local content for the school children in the meals provided in the schools. So when we came into office in 2010, the local content was about 30%. Now it's closer to 70%. Only a couple of months ago, we introduced a cassava muffin.
Right.
Again, trying to influence the taste, highlighting some of the local produce here and where we could substitute as much as possible. So that's what we're doing on that end.
And I suppose the approach has to be both on the supply and on the demand.
Yeah, well,
so
it's a multi-pronged approach, and I'm a firm believer in the demand will force the supply to follow.
Right.
So we also had 2 major launches or seminars, if you will, at various restaurants. One in Jaffa, where we highlighted the attributes of the buffalo meat
Right.
and what could be done and so on. Then we had another one at Bootleggers in Chagonas, where we talked about tilapia, and we invited a number of restaurateurs to do both these events and highlighted to them what are the attributes of buying local
Right.
and the advantages over its foreign counterpart and so on.
So have you been providing incentives then, I would say, for the...
Well, the ministry has always provided incentives over the years for the farmers
Right.
and so on. But that has not worked. The
Right.
incentive by itself cannot stand to drive the demand for it.
Right.
So it has to be approached differently. So we have had some successes in some of the sectors we have gone into, and I think we have seen a turnaround in a majority of them.
Excellent. Let me bring Mr. Ganga Prasad in here because you're on NAMDEFCO. From where I said the marketing arm of this whole process. So we're talking here about trying to work on the supply and work on the demand, and what really is your role in trying to make that happen?
NAMDEFCO, the National Agricultural Marketing and Development Corporation, as we describe it, is an arm of the Ministry of Food Production. Our mandate basically is to facilitate the marketing of fresh agricultural produce and by extension to develop agro-industry
Right.
and to inculcate the agri-entrepreneurship trust in value added and sustainability in food production to lead into that demand supply or growing needs. NAMDEFCO in itself facilitates the marketing of fresh agricultural produce. We work at both ends and also throughout the marketing chain. The demand, what is demanded out there? The supply, do we have the supply capacity? And work with the farmers to supply that capacity which is demanded by the consumers. How we get that trust out? We work at all levels. We work with the National Schools Dietary Services Limited, where the trust is to inculcate in the minds and the palate, most importantly, of the young minds, the young individuals in our society, the taste for the local food. We're looking at the fruits, we're looking at the vegetables, and we're looking at the staples. My first work with school feeding program was with cassava, for example.
Right.
And a few years back, when we put cassava on the menu, we had to do something with it. Now we are looking at putting that product on the menu, on the menu plan, in a form where it's not so much recognizable. The taste is comparable to what we're accustomed to. We're looking at the cassava muffin, for example, now. It's a tremendous hit. It's 32% replacement of wheat flour in that muffin. And we're looking to diversify from the cassava as well. And
Right.
we're testing school feeding, looking at beetroot
Right.
to promote that it's nutritional, it's healthy, it can be used, and you have some variety in the muffin in itself.
Right. But let me jump in here because I'm hearing from both of you that we're reaching out to the children, and that's fair enough. But how can you reach the children without reaching the parents? You know, I'm a parent myself, and I'm the one, along with my wife, who would pick up the items at the grocery shelf. Sure enough, your children would ask for the KFC now and then and on the foreign, stuff. But what is being done to to target the parents, to kind of inculcate the palate, as you said, for the local produce.
Right. Our parents, as you describe yourself now,
Yeah.
are basically working class.
Right.
Fast, on the go, need something easy to prepare.
Right.
We are looking and we are working and we are putting on the shelves in partnership with the private sector, with individuals there, local product that's ready to cook, ready to consume. It also means working with the supermarkets to have that local commodity on the shelf. We are working with, and there are products on the shelf, cassava for example, ready to cook soup packs.
Right.
You put it in a pot and you cook. Callaloo packs, for example. How much of us have the time to go and peel and prepare and
Right.
put it there? But
Right.
now you have that ready-to-use commodity. We've gone a step further. Maybe you don't have the time to cook it. We are working with individuals, and you will see in some of the supermarkets are ready to eat callaloo meal.
Right.
You heat and eat. Totally local,
Right.
developed, and worked on with NAMDEFCO and the private sector to put it on there. In addition, promotion in the supermarkets, promotion in the retail markets and wholesale markets to individuals who actually consume the nutritional benefits.
Right.
We're partnering with the Ministry of Health in the wellness drives, the benefits of eating local produce, the meaning of the different colors and the health parameters that it contributes to the well-being of the individuals.
Right.
So you hear about an apple of the keeps the doctor away, but
Right.
we have the local fruit, the oranges, the watermelons, the papaya, and the pomerancs,
Yeah.
likewise contributing towards that nutritional capacity within the individual.
I want to come back to that a little later on, but let me go back to the kind of macro picture, Minister. And I think the last time I checked, the agricultural sector is contributing about 0.4% to GDP. 5 now.
Yeah.
So what is your vision in terms of the sector and moving that figure up even more?
We've inherited a system when we came into office of dire neglect in the sector. NAMDEFCO was nowhere close to what it is now. And Ganesh, who has been there for about 16 years?
Yeah.
Close to 16 years, could attest to that. NAMDEFCO was virtually emasculated and castrated by the last administration. They empowered instead a company called TABA, which there was no link or accountability really in any real sense. And they duplicated in large part what NAMDEFCO was supposed to be doing without the necessary checks and balances by the parliament. And we have reversed that. So NAMDEFCO now is so empowered, and you're seeing the results of NAMDEFCO's activity on the ground by some of the initiatives they have taken. So we know that NAMDEFCO could work if they're so resourced and given the kind of support that they need from the ministry. And so we are doing that. We have embarked on a number of other initiatives in which, again, was neglected. For example, the predial larceny. That's a perennial problem of farmers that they claim, listen, we grow our products and so on, it's growing good, and when we're about to harvest, somebody else claim it.
Right, exactly.
Right? So we instituted the predial larceny squad a couple of years ago, and that has been going very good wherever they have
But we have always had a predial larceny squad.
all over the world.
Right.
All over the world. Wherever the predial larceny squad operates, we have seen a reduction in crime there.
Okay.
The predial larceny squad is very proactive in that they have gone out to the various farming communities, established contacts, established relationships well in advance of any incident. So if the farmer is faced with any challenge on his farm, he knows where to call, and when the officers respond, they know where they're going, most likely they know the farmer and so on.
Right.
So it's a very community type of approach with the predial larceny squad, and we are seeing it resulting in positive reduction in crime in the agriculture sector wherever they operate. Now, so successful it has been that we have had requests to expand the squad, and we are in the process of going through the necessary administrative functions to expand the squad.
And let me see if I can pin you down to some facts, some figures, right? Coming back to my earlier question about GDP, contribution to GDP. And the first question I started with, which was, can we really feed our people, or can we turn to the sector in a meaningful way to help feed our people? At 0.4%, 0.5% now, Do you have a percentage in mind that you would like to see achieved?
I wouldn't want to hazard a guess at that, because you have to be cognizant that this is a small island.
Right.
We stopped making land here a long time. You can't go in a grocery and buy a bag of land and empty it out.
Exactly.
So some of the economies of scale that the larger countries have the luxury of. In fact, in some of those countries, they pay farmers not to produce, right? Whereas we here do the opposite. We can never compete with it.
Right.
What we have to do is try to ensure that we have a farming community in that if there's any convulsions on the international market, that we are not vulnerable.
Right.
For example, in 2007, there was a milk shortage internationally, and there was a degree of limitation of milk imports to Trinidad and Tobago. But that particular commodity, you have the two most vulnerable groups being affected. That's the very old and the very young.
Of course.
As a result of that, we suffered. What we have done in this administration, we have ramped up dairy production. In fact, we have seen an increase in milk. Only yesterday, about 40-something or so heads of dairy cattle arrived in the country, and they will be supplied to various farmers throughout Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidad in particular. Right. We have also established a pasteurization unit at Londonville Sugarcane Feed Centre, and we are establishing a similar unit at Wallerfield, where again, initiatives taken to stimulate the sector, that farmers know that if they could pasteurize their own milk, they could sell it directly and get value added for their final product at a higher price than the raw product, and be so driven to produce more and more. Because one of the approaches that we have taken at the ministry and all our agencies, NAMDEFCO being no exemption, is the concept of the value added along the value chain. So NAMDEFCO is busy at this point in time preparing to open 2 packing houses, one at Brecon Castle and the other one at Brickfield, where some of the raw products would be processed and then sold at a much higher price than the raw product. Right. There is a packing house existing at Piaco, and we're seeing that working as well.
All right. When we come back, we're going to cut for a short break because I want to talk a bit about some of the challenges that we face in the agricultural sector. But we want to take the break now. But just remember, when we come back, we'll open up the lines, and you can call us at 675-8747, so 675-8749. Join us on Facebook as well, facebook.com/OurTV4 or gisltd.tt/TV-4. We'll take a break now, and we'll come back and talk about some of the challenges facing the sector. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us once again on Tough Talking Thursday. We have in studio with us the Food Production Minister, the Senator, the Honorable Devon Panraj, and the CEO of NAMDEFCO, Mr. Ganesh Ganga Prasad. And we're talking food security here. We're talking food production. We're talking, can we feed our people? How is the sector contributing to GDP, the overall economy? What does it mean for you and your homes, etc.? Our lines are open now, so we are inviting calls. You can join in the conversation. And as I said, you can also join us on our Facebook and call us at 675-8747, 675-8749. Let's talk a little bit about the challenges facing the sector. Labor shortages, pests and diseases.
Well, we have identified 2 already. The marketing and business support, which NAMDEFCO is addressing.
Right.
We have identified Prairie Larceny, which we are also addressing. Right. Infrastructure is another perennial problem. Again, due to the level of neglect over the last decade or so, a lot of the roads, agricultural access roads, have considerably deteriorated, and maintenance and so on. So we have ramped up over the last 5 years the amount of roads we have actually constructed, the amount of roads that we have maintained over 160% more than our predecessors. So we're going into areas. Now, the budget of the Ministry of Food Production will never, by any short measure, satisfy the entire agricultural community. In fact, if I were to take the entire budget given for roads and maintenance and so on,
and what is that
put
budget?
put it in one constituency,
Right.
it would not satisfy that constituency, much less the nation of Trinidad and Tobago. So what we do is prioritize the roads based on the area, the volume being produced, the number of farmers being affected, and so on, and eventually get. Now we are faced with an additional challenge in addition to that infrastructural support, that again as a function of our smallness as a country, that a lot of the agricultural access roads are not being used exclusively for agricultural usage.
Right.
So that you find agricultural access roads, let's say in Cunupia area, long ago were only being utilized by tractors and farmers going to and from.
Right.
Now it's being used as a shortcut by regular people and trucks and so on going. And those roads, the access roads, are constructed differently than main roads and highways and so on, much lower grade. And as a result of that, because of the increased traffic, which wasn't anticipated because they should not have been there, the roads are deteriorating faster, requiring a lot more investment to go in and so on. So that's one of the challenges that we face.
And while we're there, we're talking about the access roads. Let's jump to something that happened this week. The farmers complaining about the land and the regularization of the land.
Yeah. Well, that's another problem.
Right.
The land tenure issue.
Yes.
Again, coming out of the last PNM administration, they failed to regularize and treat with the issue of renewal of leases. In fact, in my research, the only lease that I was interested in renewing was the church at the Haikata Guanapu, right, for Peña. But other than that, leases were not regularly renewed. So when we came into office, there were close to 9,000 lapsed leases. And to renew a lapsed lease isn't a rubber stamping function. You don't take the lease and you say renewed.
Right.
What happens is the Ministry of Food Production officers have to go out. It's almost like doing a new lease. Verify that, yes, you're on the land. Yes, you are the person that's supposed to be on the land. Yes, you actually engage in agriculture. Yes, you're doing the agriculture that they approved it for in the first place. Then they do up the necessary documentation and so on, comes to the ministry, signed up, and then it goes to the Ministry of Land and Marine Affairs. Then they have to prepare the appropriate documentation.
It's a lengthy process.
It's a lengthy process.
So
the backlog to clear that 9,000 lap leases is
So where are we at
tremendous.
with it? From 9,000 to what? Can you say?
I can't say offhand. That's a different ministry, so I can't give you a current figure. But I know it's been aggressively pursued by Minister Jairam Simangal to reduce it.
Right.
So the issue of and then even though it passes through his ministry, it doesn't stop there. It has to go then to the chief state solicitor, who looks at it, ensures that there was no error done by the previous ministries and involvement, and then goes through. Now, if in the event there was an error, it has to be sent back to be corrected all over again. So the process is a very long one. It's something that the farmers, quite rightly so, find unacceptable, but unfortunately it's a process that we have to treat with at this time until better comes our way. I hope Minister Simangal could formulate
So
something.
Is that contracting our supply?
No, it's not contracting our supply. What it does, it restricts the activity to a certain extent, because if you don't have land tenure, you can't take your lease and go to the bank and say, listen, the ADB.
So no expansion,
and we want.
No
so
further
it
investment.
provides a degree of challenge for the farmer there. And so that the issue of land tenure is another one. The other area is labor.
Yes, labor shortages.
There-
Why are people not attracted to the sector?
Labor shortage is not unique to Trinidad and Tobago, right? I think Ganesh could support me there on that. All over the world, people are migrating from farms. They want to go in an office and work. They don't mind working for less, because it's air conditioned, the environment is clean, the labor is more intellectual and less physical and so on, and they prefer that than toiling in the hot sun.
So how can we attract them?
It's a challenge. You have to get people passionate about it. So that's why we have the YAPA program, the professional program. And there are persons in our society who are really passionate about agriculture. and they don't mind going out in the hot sun and long hours and so on and work. But we have also struck a MOU with the CPEP and URP to try and get them involved in agriculture, but it has to be based on the attitude of the person with an affinity and inclination towards agriculture.
Let me just,
and it can't be based on just monetary.
Let me just pause you a little because we have a caller on the line from Cocorite, I believe. Caller, welcome.
Yeah, good afternoon to your panel.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Mr. Maharaj, isn't it a fact that the reason why you're having some difficulty in getting people back to the land is because your policy is racist, and that the Africans are targeted as the workers, the ex-slaves, and the ex-indentured laborers are now the landowners, and we are going to go into the future in that state forever and ever. Amen. You have a nice day.
Well, I don't know what the caller is getting at. The policies are racist. What government policy is grounded on anything but equitable distribution? I think what he's alluding to is the fact that the Caroni lands were given out to the former employees of Caroni. Now, that's the criteria it was given out, and that arrangement was done by the last administration, right? Which he seems to be a supporter of. So if the PNM decided to give the Caroni workers, as part of their visa packages, residential lots and agricultural 2-acre plots, and we now are in the position to effect that legal obligation so to do, how come the policy becomes racist? Then I would say the PNM implemented a racist policy against African people. And but I don't see it that way, because the composition of the labor force of Caroni, while significantly Indian, was not exclusively so. And it was whoever was employed. Like conversely, when they had a similar VSEP exercise at the port, the reverse was true.
We have another call on the line from Princess Tong this time. Welcome, Princess Tong. Princess Tong, you're on Tough Talking Thursday. Welcome.
Princess Tong, forget you.
I think we may have... Princess Tong, are you there? I think we're hearing a bit, but I think we may have lost the caller.
That's all I got. See the phone caller.
All right, let me just bring Mr. Ganga Prasad in a little here to speak to that same issue, because you spoke that you're a facilitator, really, and you have markets for, you kind of find markets for your farmers, and you interact and you kind of set them up and say, here is your demand on this side, and you are the supplier. What is causing people to turn away from agriculture? Is it not a viable business opportunity?
Agriculture is a viable business opportunity. Taking the parameters into account, once it can be satisfied. You have a small, young generation in numbers coming towards agriculture.
Right.
But they don't want to go towards the conventional type production. And that's what we have to understand, to draw that younger crowd into the population of farming. We're looking at technology. We're looking at production in a system now that takes away the sun, takes away the weather.
Let me just pause you. We have a caller from San Fernando. I just don't want to keep them waiting too long. Caller from San Fernando. Caller from San Fernando, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday.
Yeah, good day to you.
Good evening.
Yeah, I like how Diva Botai looking. Where you get a Botai from?
I didn't hear all. You got what he said?
You want to know where I get the bow tie from?
The bow tie.
Call me after to organize one fair.
Any questions about farming, the agricultural sector?
Bow ties for next
program.
Our next program.
Yeah, Mr. Ganga Singh, coming back to the point you were making.
We're looking at technology in agriculture, protected agricultural systems, producing under something similar to greenhouse systems, where you have technology can be employed. You have better returns on the investment, you have better yields, you have conformity to market requirements, and you have production during the cooler times of the day. We're moving away from production as we conventionally known for lettuce and pak choy. We're in a hydroponics type of environment now.
Right. One more call from San Fernando. San Fernando. Another call from
Yes,
San
that
Fernando.
is good.
Welcome to the program.
Yes, good evening to your panel there, and you.
Good evening.
Tell me something. Do they have an authority on the amount of chemicals that latent chemicals in the vegetables and fruits that the consumer is purchasing?
Yes. There is a level of pesticide residues that is allowed on food products that will not affect the health of the consumer. And this is basically determined, in our case, by the World Health Organization. And it comes from the Codex Alimentarius. We have, at NAMDEVCO, embarked on a program and, where we test for pesticide residue levels on produce.
Right.
And it's focused at farmers on the farm certification and monitoring program that we manage. And what we have found is that farmers on this program are well within the MRL levels. You have certain institutions in Trinidad, case in point, the school catering program, will not purchase produce if they don't know where it's coming from and if the MRL levels
So
are not within.
we have another caller, a call from Karanaj. Karanaj, welcome.
Yes, good night to you on the panel.
Yes.
Calling concerning the farmers in Chaguaramas. What's the situation with the farmers where the CDA is going on the farmers and there are farmers farming going on in Chaguaramas? Referring to the minister.
We jump issues back. We're coming back to the...
Yeah, I will
farmers
treat
in
that. That issue is better posed to Minister Botuari, who's the line minister in charge of the CDA and the Chaguaramas. But as you know, those lands are vested with the Chaguaramas Development Authority.
Yes.
And some of my initial inquiries have revealed that there are persons that are pretending or posing to be farmers and they are not. One of their advocates for the last 8 years was in jail. And he is saying that he is on the farm for the last 20 years. The other one can't show a bygone that he grew there yet. And he's advocating.
So they are land grabbers?
They engage in land hoarding and so on. And, but I would believe that, in fact, some of them actually were offered alternative sites as a way of reaching some sort of compromise to avoid any confrontation.
I think we have another caller. Just 1 minute. A caller from Arima. Arima, welcome. Arima, welcome.
Yeah, blessings to the panel.
Yes.
Could you say what is the position with the we planting crops in Guyana? Because I find as a no-no because we have a lot of land here in Caroni and we're going to plant another country, other people to develop the infrastructure. It's millions of dollars to spend in Guyana when we have the land right here in Caroni.
Well,
and
the
other, yes.
Which part we spending millions of dollars in Guyana? Where are you basing that information on?
But who is spending that money?
No, but here that's not where we spend a dollar or a cent in Guyana.
No, I didn't.
No, but you're saying that we have spent millions in Guyana. I'm asking you where you have evidence of that.
This will be taking place in the not too distant future.
No. Where let me disabuse your mind. Our intention is to act as a facilitator because Guyana has contiguous land which could lend to large mechanization of large tracts of land, over 10,000 acres. We do not have that large expanse of land to facilitate that kind of mechanization.
Caroni land.
Caroni land are divided up among the Caroni workers and so on. That's a different story.
There's a lot of wastage land in Caroni.
You need to know what you're talking about before you ask a question, caller. You can't talk in a point of ignorance, which you seem to be comfortable in. What I'm saying is that what we have done is acted as a facilitator. The government said, listen, Guyana have these large tracts of land, unutilized and very fertile.
Right.
We have agro-investors here. I want to stress that, agro-investors. And we put these agro-investors, not farmers,
right,
in touch with the Guyana land and so on. And we screen them and we say these people are qualified. And they go across there now and invest their private money.
right.
And they develop and farm and export it to Trinidad.
So some kind of government-to-government kind of relationship.
The government of Trinidad and Tobago invests $0. The proposal requires $0 for us to invest there. 0 farmers go across to produce. What we have is a private sector initiative facilitated by the government. So again, the ignorance of the...
Let me just take Kokorit now. We have Kokorit on the line. Kokorit, welcome. Thanks for holding.
Yeah. Minister, what I was alluding to is not the Corona situation. What I'm alluding to is your initiative to guide employees away from CPEP and URP, as challenging and undesirable those occupations may be, to farms owned by one ethnic group. And what you will have is one ethnic group being the workers on these farms, never with the opportunity to become landowners, and one ethnic group going into eternity as the landowners in this country. That's what I'm alluding to, and it takes me right back to the slave time when the
Stallmeyers group that owned the land, and who is the ethnic group that farmed
the plantations here.
Caller,
I will listen to.
I was trying to find out who is the ethnic group, is the landowner, and who is the...
Let me just swing down south again and go to Princestown. Princestown, welcome.
Please hang up and...
We lost that call. Well, it's certainly heating up.
No, but you see, the caller is saying one ethnic group only land and one ethnic group is in labor, but he's not aware of the reality on the ground, you know. If you go to the farmers in this country, they taking labor from anybody, you know. Yes. In fact, I know a farmer bringing on Guyanese in boat under the boat to try and farm here, and as soon as the Guyanese get smart, they go on and find work outside. The problem is...
We have another caller on the line, and our callers are really turning this into Tough Talking Thursday. They're contributing. And Pleasantville, welcome. Pleasantville, welcome.
Hello, good day, gentlemen. Listen, what I would like to find out from the minister is whatever happened to this initiative with the onions growing in Chaguaramas area. At one time, a couple of years ago, we were shown a lot of onions.
That's
that
right.
Would have been available.
They're still producing onions there.
But why isn't the public informed about it?
Well, we could only advertise so much. You know, what you want us to do? Advertise every day that we growing onions in Chaguaramas?
Are onions available locally?
Yes, they are available locally in the supermarkets and so on.
Well, this is news to me because I'm now hearing.
Well, that's why we're on the program here, so you could be so educated. So now you know.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, not only onions are growing, and cherry tomatoes is now being grown up there. Of course, it's a small acreage of land. I think it's restricted to 100 acres or less. So obviously, we won't be able to produce enough onions to supply all of Trinidad and Tobago. So what you find is the produce that's grown in Tucker Valley there is restricted to the supermarkets that the farmer sells to.
Right.
So it's unlikely that you would find onions grown in Tucker Valley, in Arima or Pinal or Chaguanas. So it may be restricted to the West Peninsula.
But on that note, and let me bring Mr. Ganga Prasad in.
Because the callers are asking him nothing.
Let me ask, what are our hot sellers? What are the products? Just before you answer, we have a quick call to take from Arima. We have a caller from Arima.
Good night to the panel there.
Good night.
Mr. Minister, don't bother with that gentleman. So he harass all the program. He's a strong PNM.
I don't mind.
Minister, I want to tell you something which you may not know, and the panel may not know. Do you know we grow walnuts in Trinidad?
We grow what?
Walnuts. Those nuts you get at Christmas with the tree sides that you pay so much money for at Christmas time?
No.
We have that in Chaguaramas.
Okay.
Yeah, let me tell you. My grandfather used to work with the Americans on the base, and he was a painter. And on certain days, they used to roam the forest, go in the forest, and he used to bring that home for us. He even brought the shell in which it grows in. So I would like with this amount of work they're doing in Chaguaramas that you could get the forestry division, that they will save those trees and maybe we could plant more because the soil is good for it there.
Sure, I will talk to Minister Ganga Singh. He's in charge of forestry.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to come back to that question because what are some of
the hot sellers?
All right. what I'll do, we'll go to a break, and then we'll come back to that question, right? So we'll think about it, but we'll take a break now. Remember, when we come back, we're talking food security, food production, and our lines are always open. So we'll take a break now. Welcome back to Tough Talking Thursday, and our lines are open and our callers are certainly making the show what we tagged it to be, Tough Talking Thursday, and our guest, particularly our minister, is responding in kind. So we're having a very exciting evening. But we threw a question to Mr. Ganga Prasad. He's the CEO of NAMDEVCO earlier, and I just wanted to give you that opportunity to answer. What are our hot sellers? What are our big markets?
Our big markets, and you look at it both on the local or the regional, the international side. And let's look at the international side first. Our big sellers are hot peppers. It's the hot topic out there. We have growing demands right now. We entertain importers out of Miami up to 2 weeks ago. And we have a meeting with the counselor in Miami for Trinidad and Tobago, where he's arranging meetings. Hot peppers are in big demand from Trinidad, not only because of its availability, but its origin speaks to itself for quality, taste, pungency. And we are looking to focus on developing that.
Right.
Again, into that reinstating Trinidad in the North American market. We're looking at things like pumpkins. Pumpkins is used nationally. It can be grown throughout the year, and it can facilitate that growing need for that commodity in the North American market. It also does well in the Caribbean market, with Barbados being our major trading partner. You look at the vegetables, for example. You're looking at tomatoes. We're looking at sweet pepper and cabbage, a commodity that can be produced year-round, a commodity that if we tweak the production systems that we employ and focus on specific areas in Trinidad during the wet season, for example, when that commodity is in high demand, we can supplement additional production.
Right. We can suppose you. Caller is on the line from Port of Spain. Caller, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday.
Yeah, I'm calling concerning, food. I'm calling about genetically modified food.
Yes.
There's this company called Monsanto, and they, from the U.S., they produce a lot of seeds that I think Trinidad and Tobago, we use the seeds in corn and cucumbers and stuff. Now, they have proven that corn, the genetically modified corn, they call something called leaky gut, because they put a gene into the corn itself that when pests eat it, the pests fall down and die. All right? So when humans eat it, literally, there's something happens in your gut where it becomes more porous and proteins are able to get into your blood. Now, I have a little bit of concern about that. I have a concern also about the amount of pesticides we're using. And I was speaking to a couple of farmers, and what I was told, there's like green, blue, and red colors for chemicals. And the farmers, they use the chemicals, without proper knowledge. Sometimes they overuse it. They pick the crops when these things are sprayed, and they don't allow the 2 weeks to pass. So this is a concern to me as a consumer. And the other problem I have also is that these chemicals, they've been proven that they cause a lot of cancers. And that's the reason why people in certain countries, you don't have cancers, and you have a lot in the United States, and there's a lot in Trinidad and Tobago. And that is something I would like that the government look at, the Ministry of Agriculture look at, and begin to educate and try to reduce pesticide. There's natural ways that we could plant. There's certain plants that keeps bugs away, and we could go back to that, and we could also try to retain seeds, natural seeds, and not just genetically modified seeds. Thank you, bye.
I think you raised some very important points. I'd like you to respond.
Trinidad do not subscribe to genetically modified organisms in the seeds that we import. Notwithstanding that, we import a lot of pre-packaged stuff and processed stuff, cereals, cornflakes, where the origin is not known. But the corn that we grow here, and most of the other varieties that we import, our information is not genetically modified and is not supported in that format. Scientifically, we are not sure what the effects are of genetically modified organisms in the crop that we consume. But there is a perception by the consuming public that it's not safe. And the farming community at least subscribes to non-genetically modified organisms at this point in time. When it comes to that pesticide, and we were talking about the pesticide residual levels earlier on, the Ministry of Food Production, NAMDEVCO, and NAMDEVCO took the lead with the chemical companies who import by subscribing to safer pesticides. And when we say safer pesticides, we're looking at and he described the band in itself, class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4. We're looking at using and identifying the class 4s, which are the green band pesticides and organics for use on farms. But tie that into an integrated pest management approach program where you use the environment to control the environment and you have sustainability coming in thereafter. It's a way of promoting healthier foods, safer foods on the plate of individuals that consume. And by monitoring these with the extension support staff that we have, we can check records. We check records and we validate through pesticide testing.
We also have the farm certification.
The farm certification program, which is managed by NAMDEVCO. And this came about as a result of re-entering into the CARICOM market, where now we recommend what pesticides to use, and more importantly, which ones not to use.
Right.
And the ones not to use are the class 1, class 2, and some of the class 3s on that program. Farmers are encouraged to keep records, employ good agricultural practices system, proper post-harvest management system, and hygiene and sanitation on the farm to encourage that safer product at the end of the day.
Yeah, that is critical. I want to bring in a farmer now. We want to talk to tilapia farmer. His name is Christian Penco. We'll hear from him, a clip from him. He's from Londonville, I believe. And we want to go to that shot now.
My name is Christian Penco. I'm a tilapia farmer. My farm is in Longmanville. I'm actually expanding right now, so I'm not in production. My final decision whether I should take advantage of what has been offered to me, that decision will be taken this afternoon after I crunch some more figures. Where I see the challenges in this industry is your cost of feed, things like your cost of feed, your cost of electricity. It is very difficult on a local level to compare to $36 or $32 a kilogram as the Chinese export. But I say categorically that the quality of their product to the quality of a local product is chalk and cheese. And if you put them side by side and cook them the same way, it will be blatantly evident. It is imperative that you have a quality feed. This is a marine environment, a water environment, aqua environment. If the feed does not hold together, you find the nutrients from the feed dissipate into the water and the fish don't benefit. When I was in full production, I generally imported my feed. I have used feed from SIDC, which I would have preferred a better quality product. I have used National Flour Mills. I would have it cannot compare to an imported feed. And what is important is my conversion rate and the quality that these feeds, the manner these feeds leave my filters. In my experience, I don't find I get the quality, those aspects down pat as I do with a farm.
So, Minister, if you care to respond, he's raising issues of the quality of feed, availability of the feed on the market, and the cost of that feed.
This is a private sector-driven industry, and the Ministry of Food Production, indeed the government, if we respect market forces and so on, and the free market, there's little intervention we could make to force people to import feed X or Y or Z. What we have tried to do is to reduce the cost of production where we can by importing feed, as indicated by SIDC and NFM, produces their own feed, that offers the price of feed at a lower price point. Of course, if he's not satisfied with that feed, he's free to look elsewhere on the market for a feed that satisfies his particular need, or import his own feed. The issue of the electricity is another area.
Yeah.
We in Trinidad benefit from subsidized electricity. All over the Caribbean, I think it's uncontested that Trinidad and Tobago has the lowest electricity rates, given the oil and gas that we have here. Our real challenge, not only in the tilapia sector, but many other sectors, is really the efficiency of production.
Yeah.
And it ripples throughout the sector.
Let's just bring in a caller from Couva at this point. Couva, welcome. Good night.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Yes, good night.
Good night. You're on
Good night to the panel.
Good night.
This is a question, a comment really. I have a problem and I need the minister to address this for me. I am a farmer for over 35 years. And it's not me alone. This has affected about 35 farmers. We need a road. This is in Cunupia. We need a road and a bridge. I forwarded a letter to the minister, and I got a response from the secretary stating that he would look into it. I went to the minister in my area, which is Mr. Gopi Singh. I went to the councillor, which is Ms. Renura, and everybody's telling me they don't have money. When we go to our garden, we have to carry bags on our backs for more than a mile to take off our produce. Now the bridge has broken down, and we're begging, we're asking, we're pleading to the minister if he can help us. I can leave my number with you all, so the minister can respond, or get somebody to call me. I'm begging for that road and that bridge. Not for only me, for about around 35 farmers. This is in the Cunupia area.
That's the Mount Pleasant Road?
Mount Pleasant Road extension.
Yeah, that road actually came up today in a cabinet discussion, and it's something that will be addressed shortly.
Okay, I spoke with Renira, which is the councillor, and she told me she'll talk to me. I went to Mr. Gopi Singh personally with all the farmers.
No, your request has not fallen on deaf ears, and up to today, it was discussed along with a number of other roads that require urgent attention, and resources have been allocated towards it. So within a short space of time, it will be addressed.
Minister, thanks very much. I'm a single mother, and I'm pleading to you that if I could get that road in the quickest time, because I need to get back to my land.
If I could give it to you tomorrow, I could give it to you.
Thanks very much.
Stay on the line, and someone will take your number as well, off air. All right, gentlemen, we're heading down to wrap-up time, but before we wrap up, I just want to, the callers have really lit the lines up, but before we wrap up, I just want to, where do you see us going? Where are we going to be in the food production sector in the next 5 years?
Well, in the next 5 years, in the next 5 months, will determine where the next 5 years go.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? In the last administration, their approach to agriculture was to shut down everything. There was a decline, a contraction in the sector. There was a starving of the sector. There was a emasculation of the sector. And we have had to spend the large part of our administration kind of reversing some of the injustices visited upon the farmers and the agriculture sector as a whole, and then putting in place, on top of that reversal, progressive measures to turn it around. We have seen turnaround in the tilapia sector, in the rice sector, in the dairy sector, in the small ruminant sector, just to name a few. And in the next 5 years, we hope to see a further taking off of not only those sectors, but many other that we have on the drawing board right now, so as to reduce our dependency on imports by providing acceptable substitutes, reducing food inflation, and making us more food secure as a nation as a whole.
Excellent.
We need to capitalize on initiatives that has commenced, and in so doing, progress towards increasing food security for the nation, and concentrate on that local market, which is the biggest market we can think of at this point in time, and displace that imported goods. As we mentioned earlier on, we may not reach 100% food security, but at least we can reach a measure of food security that whenever we face an incident, as in the past, we will have some sustainability. to carry us on for a couple of months. Well,
and I suppose we have to always still speak to just that home environment as well, encourage people to grow their own and stuff like that.
Well, more than grow their own, we have to make sure that they eat their own, whether they grow it or not. But when you go to the supermarket, something buy local. I mean, the local stuff is fresher, healthier. The nutrients are still high there as opposed to processed. And I mean, internationally, they're showing obesity. One of the causes of obesity is processed food and so on. And they,
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me on this first episode of Tough Talking Thursday. And I think the program lived up to its name tonight. We want to thank all our callers and our viewers. And please join us next Thursday for another Tough Talking Thursday right here with me, Joel Nanton. Have a good night.